All right, everyone, we are back with a video, which I haven't done in a while, about music theory. Now, today we're going to be discussing the Beatles' Ask Me Why, which is probably the deepest of deep cuts. I mean, you could probably go to hardcore Beatles fans and say, oh, how about you play me a little Ask Me Why? And they'd say, why are you asking me to play that song? Because they have no idea what you're talking about, right? So today we're going to do a formalist analysis of Ask Me Why. Because I was playing this song a few days ago, and I thought the form is very confusing because it's not verse-chorus, and it's not even AABA. It's something completely different. Now, my past two videos have been, which are Sonata Form Explained and On Pleasure in Music, have been mainly about classical music. But I think it's important, and I want to do this for Born to Run and some other songs, to do formalist analysis of pop music, to take pop music seriously as music itself, because there are a million studies out there of pop music as a cultural phenomenon. You look in these academic journals, they write about pop music as a cultural phenomenon. Very few people write about pop music as a musico-theoretical phenomenon, and the pieces of scholarship that are out there are very illuminating, actually. Alan Fort, who invented set theory for 20th century music, wrote a book about the Great American Songbook. There's also this great article I read about chords in rock music, and these two researchers found out that not the 5 chord, which is how it is in classical music, but the 1 chord, so 1-4-1 motion, is the dominant motion in a lot of 20th century music. Very interesting, because there we could see a clear break from the 1-5-1 of classical music. So things like that. So I think it's very important to take pop music seriously. So today we're going to talk about Ask Me Why. Now, it's very important to understand formally where the Beatles come in the history of pop music, because they really stand at the pivot between two of the major song forms of the 20th century. So, for example, we have AABA form. I'm actually going to write this on a different piece of paper here. This is my notes here. We have AABA form. All right, and this is great American songbook. So all the songs you know from old Broadway, I'm talking old Broadway, the songs that the jazz guys play, you know, Body and Soul, Stompin' at the Savoy, all those songs. Frank Sinatra. This is Frank Sinatra, right? AABA. And this is when we have the verse, which can kind of be a chorus, but, you know, verse. We call it the bridge and then the verse. But the bridge works differently in the other form. So really, late 20th century song form is verse-chorus. Verse-chorus, and then a bridge. So really any pop song. I mean, you know, this is all Taylor Swift. You know, most songs written after the 20th century. And the thing about the bridge, now they both have, quote, bridges, right? But in AAB, the bridge was the bridge literally from A to A, right? Here, the bridge is kind of an auxiliary part, right? The meat of the song is the verse, chorus, you know, verse, chorus. We see this in Please Please Me. The Beatles have verse, chorus song. And then the bridge comes as almost a palate cleanser, a novelty before we get back to what we're known for. It's really the bridge to the other chorus. You usually won't have a verse after the bridge. Now, in some songs, the bridge can be in different places, but really verse, chorus. So the Beatles now come in the middle of this, right? So they have some AABA songs. They have some verse, chorus songs. But really, their time period in history allows them to go between the two. Now, you take a song like I Saw Her Standing There, now, or I Want to Hold Your Hand. Those are modified AABAs because they have like an A verse with an A chorus, A verse, A chorus, bridge comes, A verse, A chorus, right? And really how you distinguish these, you say, oh no, it's kind of like verse, chorus, right? There's a bridge, is that the bridge is an integral part of this form, right? Because the bridge comes back, and when I touch you, that comes back, okay? So that's not this auxiliary part that we only see once. That's radically different from the rest of the song. Now, that's a part of this AABA song form. All right, so the Beatles come here. Now, we get to Ask Me Why, and this is the Beatles Complete Scores book. Lots incorrect in here, but it really is a great resource, and any Beatlemaniacs, you know, or students of popular music really should have this. It's great to play from as well. But we now turn to Ask Me Why. Okay, so how do we begin here? Well, let's look at the intro. Let's actually hear it and follow along. We didn't have this in my other videos. All right, here we go. Let's do that one more time. I wasn't prepared. Here we go. All right. And then we're in. All right. So in our formless analysis, let's call that the intro. Okay? And that's just 2 bars. Okay, now what do we have here? We have the 1, okay, and then 1 to minor 2. Very simple stuff. We have a little riff. So that's really unremarkable. And we start on the 1. So here we go. So let's write that down. So we have 1. Let's bar that. And then really we go 1, 2. Okay, nothing real special. That's our intro. Now we go to the A section. Now look what we have here in the A section. We do not begin the verse, I'm going to call it the verse. We do not begin the verse on the 1 chord. Where do we begin? We begin on the 3 and we walk down to the 1. Minor 3, minor 2, 1. Now this is something that the Beatles really made an art form of, because most people would always, or do, even they start their songs on the 1, right? We start the verse, we have the 1 chord. We go 3, 2, 1. So let's mark that in. I'm not going to write the chords for everything, but 3, 2, 1, we have a little bit of a walk down. Now the Beatles, you also see this in the intro to She Loves You. She Loves You, that begins in the key of G major, that begins on an E minor, right? You see that in Baby It's You, sha-la-la-la-la-la-la, like this, they begin on the 1, right? But then they go to, I think it's the 6, they begin the verse on the 6, and then All I Gotta Do, they begin that on the 6 as well. C sharp minor, and then I think they go to E. Yeah, that's how that goes. So what does that do for the listener? That destabilizes the listener, right? Because we're used to hearing that 1, but we get it here. Da, da, I love you. Oh, we're not in the 1 anymore. So what does that do? That pulls us. That pulls us to the 1. So it creates this you may say tension. It's not like 5 tension. But it gives us tension. It keeps us listening that we need to get there. Because you tell me things I want, and then we get it dun, 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 dun. And that's actually the intro. And then when we get, cause it's true, and it's true, we do the same thing here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right. So that's how our A section begins. But now let's go on, and we'll see some other interesting things that occur. All right, we're here, boom, boom. All right, true. You get the E. Oh. All right. Now, perfect. Okay. So what did we see here? We have 1, 2, 3. All right, and then 3, 2, 1, same thing. We go up, we go down. 3 is really the pivot. And then we get a secondary dominant. We get the 5, 7 of 6 in the key of E, the 5, 7 of 6. Okay. Now, how is this achieved? It's achieved through, it's achieved 5, 7, 6. And then we've tonicized essentially the 6. And then this is even curiouser. I mean, that's unusual for pop music. But we get a minor 4. Okay, we get a minor 4 because we're really working our way back to E. We're not changing key here. We work our way back to E eventually, but we get the 4 chord. Now, I can analyze this. I think the best way to do it is to analyze it as a minor 4 because it's not really functional in the key of C minor, right? And we tonicize 5, the 5 chord, to get us back to 1. So I think that's really a key or a chord kind of way out of key, the minor 4 right there, especially in E we expect an A, and we do get an A later in the B section. All right, so let's hear the whole A section. So we have intro, and we had our A section. We can almost classify them if we want to go deeper. We could almost have A prime, right, in this repeated section. And then essentially what is a turnaround for the verse starts here. So actually, let's mark that down. So we have A prime, okay? And then we could have A2 or AB that starts right here and gets us back. So let's hear that before we go on to the B section again. Let's take it from the top. 1, 2, 3. It's a brilliant gesture to do that, to pull us to the 1 like that. It doesn't let us rest in the verse. Okay, secondary dominant, boom. All right. Good. And then that repeats. Okay, so we get A. All right. And then we repeat that. All right. So we have the intro and the A. Now your mind. Okay. Also, one more word about this. Yeah, this can't even be the 4 in C sharp minor, because that would have to be, it can't be the 6th in C sharp minor, because that would have to be major 6. So very odd chord right there. Okay, so let's keep listening on, and then we're going to get this section. This is when things start to get really funky with our ears here. Well, if it hasn't happened already with this anticipation. All right. It makes me cry. We're up here. All right. All right, here we go. Okay. So we took a second ending. Again, not very common in pop music to have second endings, right? Verse, chorus, verse, chorus. We don't see that. You're the only love that I've ever had. Oh, we're on the E. So we went straight from the A minor to the E. So we weren't prepped like we were here with the secondary dominant to give us the proper tension back to the 1. So we have the 1 here, okay? And then how do we get into the B section? We get into the B section through the E augmented, leading us to the major 4. So finally, after hearing the A minor, we get the major 4. Now, I don't want to dwell on the chords too much here, as much as I want to dwell on what's happening formally, okay? So having the bridge, let's say, this is the bridge, B section. Having the bridge start on the 4 is perfectly normal, right? The pre-chorus, which kind of functions as a bridge type in more modern music. For example, in Born to Run, we start on the 4 together, Wendy. That's just common stuff. But we get these 2 measures before here. And the Beatles Complete Scores has chosen to label this, okay, as B starting here. Okay, boom, 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 boom. I can't believe, right? But I would argue that our ears actually hear a new section, okay, beginning on Believe. Okay, Believe, it's happened to me, and then we get that again, okay? So really, and we go to our B section. I think our ears hear the B section as 4, 5, 1. Okay, and then 1 aug. Okay, meaning that this 4 measure pattern here actually starts here. So let's write that in. We have the B section starting right there. Okay, and then we hear this again. Okay, it's happened to me, bah, 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 I can't get 4, 5 of any more misery, and then we're into C. Okay, so let's hear that again and listen to how you feel the new section beginning on Believe, because you can't really rest here with this E augmented. You're already disoriented that we went from an A minor directly to the E. We didn't get that prepping. And then you hear the E augmented. And also we don't have lyrics there. I can't believe acts as the pickup into the proper B sections. Let's listen. Here we go. Right here. Oh, that's like a depression. Again, 1. Second bar of that phrase, and then we get 1. And we're into C. Okay? Great. So we have the intro, we have the A, we have the B, which I'm arguing begins here, so it leads us to a 4-measure pattern that starts on A. But still, we can't ignore that we have these 2 measures before. So what our ears hear as the tag of the 4, 5, sorry, I wrote 4 there. That should be the 1. So what our ears hear as 4, 5, 1, 1 augmented, that should be the pattern. We actually get the 1 and the 1 augmented before that pattern even starts. So again, they're playing with us formally and our expectations with what these chords should be. Now we get the 1, and then it doesn't go to E augmented, but what do we get? What do we get? E, F sharp minor, G sharp minor to go into the C. Where did we see that before? We saw that right here, okay? So let's write that down for the C. Okay, but instead of going to the 2, we go to the 4, and then we go to the 3, and then we go to the 4, and then we finally get the 1. Okay, so what does this C section function as? This C section functions as, I used the word depression. It really is a resolution point. Okay, because it's by this oscillation of keys, we're kind of floating in between 3, 4, and then we land on 1, and we get that pattern because this, from here to here, these last 2 bars of C are exactly the same as the intro, right? So in a way, we've all heard this before, but we haven't. We've heard the ask me why, 3, I say I love you, A. We're not resolved, but we're not in tension like we were over here. Okay, so it really is a more easy resolution. Now, really in notes, what's going on, this tripped me up playing, is we get this 4, 4, 6. You see this in the tablature. And then we get the 2, 2, 2. Well, what do we get over here that this is George playing this. We got the 4, 4, 6. We got the 2, 2, 4. So we change one note to get the 4 chord instead of the 2, because as we know, they only differ by 1 note. So again, we're hearing something that we already heard, but we really didn't, because this same style of playing whole notes exists, but we're playing slightly different chords there, and then we get the E. So it's a very, in a way, calming use of the C section to act as a resolution. Because what would we really expect in AABA form? We'd expect the A to come back, right? And in a way, the A does come back, but it's modified, right? So may we call this a C section? Yes, and we may also call it a modified A. Quarterly. Now, of course, with the lyrics, it's doing different things in the melody, but very similar to the A section. So in a way, we get the AABA, but not quite. Okay, but that is not all. That is not where this story ends, because you think we've mapped out the form, right? This is Ask Me Why. Intro A, B, C. That's just what happens, right? No. Let's listen again. So if we see this, I love you. We're going to go to DS1. And let's see what happens here. Oh, we're actually here. There we go. We're back to A, so we expect AABC again, right? Heard it all before. It's beautiful, beautiful. Up. Where do we go? We go to the C section. Ooh. What? All right. What did we do there? So we went from this minor 4 straight to the C section. We went from the 5 of 5. Sorry, I'm misspeaking. We went from the first ending to the C section, okay? Blue, ask me why. Oh, so instead of 1, right, we had 5 of 5, 5 to 1 when we repeated the A section last time. What do we have here? We have 5 of 5 goes to 5, goes to 3, and really goes to the C section again, right? That's how, it's D if we want to rehearse for rehearsal number, but it really is C. Ask me why, I say I love you. We've seen this before, the oscillation. So that's how things work at first. And then we go A. We don't repeat A this time. All right, and we go to C, right? We go to C. All right. 3, 4, 3, 4, as we saw last time. 3, 4, 3, 4. Now we expect a 1, right? So we should have the 1, and then maybe we're going to go back to A. We're leaving out the bridge. Maybe the bridge is the anomaly here. Here. And we do get the E, but it leads to something else. Let's see what happens here. Oh, we're back to B. Woo. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. I can't conceive. And we go through. Boom. And we're back to C. And then we get this expansion of the intro. And we end on a 3/7. Dun, 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 dun. My goodness. Okay, so let's recap what happened there. Okay? B, C. All right, and then we really get the intro. Again with this dun, 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 dun. Or something very similar to the intro. Okay, so they've defined our expectations here because we had a 5-5-5 that leads to the 3, which is the C, right? So we skipped the B section in this AABC form that was really solidly told to us the first time around, right? But we get the C, okay? And based upon our see, this is just expectation. And really, this is the same thing, and this is why pop music needs to be looked at. This is the same thing that happens in, for example, sonata form, when our expectations are built, and then in the recap, right, our expectations are either thwarted or, what usually ends up happening eventually, fulfilled, okay, in some way. So what are our expectations here? This is how we must look at music formally, okay, because we should be able to, for the most part, understand things as they come, okay, and develop our expectations in real time, even subliminally, right, if we're not sitting down and reading the sheet music here. Okay, so what do we have here? 3-4, 3-4 in the C, and we expect a 1, as I said. 3-4, 3-4, it says to go to DS2. Where does DS2 lead us to? It leads us to here, the second ending, which is as the Beatles book says, the start of the B section. Okay, so we get our E, just like we get our E here, but then it leads us into the E augmented. So, I mean, that's particularly genius part of writing, because on the one hand, it fulfills our expectation quarterly, which we expect in the C section, but formally, it disrupts our expectation by sending us backward. So it both fulfills and subverts expectations. Okay, so to recap, what do we have here? We have a very interesting piece of music formally. And really, if we want to do this a very macro analysis, we really have A, B. Okay, A is the establishment of the form. B is the almost developmental section of the form. And then, in sonata form, we'd have another A. We might do this whole thing just again. But it's a pop song. It's 2.5 minutes. Think about that. 2.5 minutes. And, we can speak about it at this great length. I mean, there's even more we could talk about chords being played in the rhythm guitar versus the lead guitar, right? So we've established our form, and then we play with the form. And we get this great bookending with the intro, right? Because we hear that dun, 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 and that's what happens here. Bum, 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 you, bum, 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 you. Oh, we want that E, and we get the 3/7, mimicking what we saw with how we begin the A section, right? So we could analyze this in a macro analysis. We could analyze this on a pretty micro level, designating subcategories within even these ABC sections. Because there are many ways of looking at this formally. Okay, so what are our conclusions here? What this song should show is that pop music, and this is really the polemic of the video, pop music is worth looking at, okay? It's very, very worth looking into, not just as a cultural phenomenon, but as a musical one. Because as you see here, this is something you don't necessarily see in classical music, especially music of the classical period, when the forms were a little more set in stone, right? And as I said before, the fact that the Beatles come between these two revolutions in formal song structure they're afforded a freedom, or rather a means of experimentation that aren't afforded to many other artists that are too ingrained in these two song forms, just by virtue of when they lived. If you lived in the 30s or 40s, if you've lived in the 70s, till now, this is still how we structure songs. Actually, the song, number one song, I don't know if it's number one, As It Was, perfectly follows this verse, chorus, really verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. We get the bridge, and then we get the chorus, and we're done, So form really is everything in these regards. So I hope I've given you an appreciation, or rather a sense of curiosity, for the deepest of deep cuts, as I said, of Beatles songs. And please, there's so much more to explore with the music of the Beatles, because I think this is why they truly are the greatest band, because they do things that nobody else does. This is a complex piece of music, and it's not even a single. I think it was a B-side, actually, of something. Was it the B-side of Please Please Me? Possibly. So I hope you've learned a lot, and I hope you have received a deeper appreciation, curiosity for popular music of the 20th and 21st century. So go listen to Ask Me Why. We did all that in mono. Listen to it in mono, of course. And if I've said anything wrong, or if you want to better analyze that chord, please be my guest.